Hello, engineering programming class. Today we are going to take one more step forward with our STL generator. And one of the big lessons we want to take away is that a lot of engineering is you start with something small. In this case, we started with just making one triangle, and then you kind of build up from that a little bit, like making a box. And then you build up from that to make a roughened plate, and you kind of add layers of complexity. So you start with something simple and you work it out to something complex. So today is our last class that's going to use this STL code that you've been working on, and I'd like to use it to make kind of a model of a city. So I'm showing you a window of my city. I want to draw your attention to a couple features. First, if I zoom in and look at it, notice that the city has some skyscrapers, but then every so often we have a street. So we have, looks like 4 skyscrapers and then a street, and then 4 skyscrapers and then a street. So each street, and I have it in both dimensions. So I've got streets this way, horizontally, east and west, and I've also got streets north and south. So one feature we're going to have to add is these individual streets. A second feature that we're going to have to add is typically for a city, the skyscrapers are taller like in the middle and then taper off as we get further away from the middle. So I'll show you some tips on how to do that. Another feature we'd like to add is to make it so that every skyscraper isn't exactly the same rectangle. So if I zoom in on my skyscrapers and I look at them from the top down, the skyscrapers aren't all the exact same widths, and like this one over here is a little bit wider than this one here. So I've got some randomness to the shapes of the individual skyscrapers. So that's another feature we'd like to add. Those are the required features. We'd also like to add some cars. I've got a car function I can give you if you want to if you don't have your own car function, you can just add my car to your city. Now, if you're adding a car, we have to be a little bit careful to make sure the car is roughly the right size. So in my city, I've made every city block, every building is 10 by 10 footprint. So a block for me is 50 units wide and 50 units long. So you don't have to do it that way, but that fits the size of my car. So my car is 4 units wide, so it's roughly in the right proportions. Okay, so by the end of today's class, you should be able to build a city, and I'm kind of looking forward to seeing your different diagrams of your city. So at the end of today's class, I'd like you to save your STL file, and I'll set up a Dropbox for you to put that in. Okay, so unlike the other classes, I'd like you to, at the end, to save the city file that you get.